So we're going to go over the working papers for 16.1. I know we kind of did it yesterday, but and it took a little bit longer, so I'll go ahead and do a video, try to get through really quick now that we kind of know what we're looking at and what is required to complete the working paper task. So it helps prepare you guys for the actual application. And so let's go ahead and go to the first section. The key things you want to have this PowerPoint slide set up because it's going to help you with a lot of the information to know how to set it up in order and to know what they're asking for. So this will be a very helpful tool to refer back to while completing the working papers and the application portion. I don't expect everybody to have it all memorized, so don't worry too much. So let's go ahead and go through these. So the following list of accounts is taken from Eastern Imports adjusted trial balance. For each account that appears on the income statement indicate the account should appear in the operation revenue, merchandise cost section, operating expense, or if it's unrelated to normal operation. But be sure, but should be reported in the income statement. For any account that does not appear in the income statement, it's like not on income. So right now you can go ahead and you pull up the PowerPoint, and if you don't see it on this side over here where the mouse is moving, if it's not on any of these, then you just put not. So right now you can go ahead and go through. You know, cash isn't showing, petty cash isn't showing, accounts receivable, amounts, or uncollectibles, merchandise account. We go through. We will find merchandise inventory on here, and so we will need it. Merchandise inventory and merchandise inventory right there. That's what I was looking for. The ending inventory, that's what that is. So you know you're gonna need it, and so that one is going to be on here. Okay, and so you just keep on moving down. And so merchandise inventory, if we go back, we look at our slide real quick. That is, we have our net sales, so operating revenue, cost of merchandise sold. So that's going to be cost of merchandise sold since it's right here under less merchandise inventory right there. So merchandise inventory. So that is a cost of merchandise sold. Let's go ahead and mark that. Okay. And so equipment, we don't need. All these right here, we don't need. These are all part of doing the adjustments. So now we're set for a trial balance. So we get all the way down here to income statements, and then now we start noticing we see sales. So if we go through and we'll look real quick at our PowerPoint, we know that for sales, operating revenue, that's part of our operating revenue. We need sales discount, sales return allowance, and net sales. All fall under the operations. See the title operations revenue. We'll highlight real quick right there, operations revenue. Then you have your cost of goods. These are all your key titles. Okay, it's operating expense and other revenue. Okay, so we know that. So right here we know sales discount and returns allowance. Those are all going to be part of our operations revenue. So operations revenue is the first column. Scroll down, sales discounts and sales return, all part of our operations revenue. So highlight those. That'll help you. Okay, so now we know cost of merchandise. We already did our merchandise inventory. So we have your purchases, purchase discounts, purchase return allowances. Those are all going to be part, and then cost of merchandise sold. All these are going to be part of cost of merchandise sold. So you come over here, you have purchases, and this is our Cost of merchandise sold, the second column, so purchases, purchase discount, purchase, okay? These are all gonna be those, all costs of merchandise sold. And now you have your operations expense, okay? So we'll go right back over here and look at operations expense. Well, it helps. It says expense, 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 right? So almost, we could almost go through. If it says expense, we're just gonna click on it, right? So this is gonna be our operation expense, our third column, okay? So advertising expense, credit card expense, 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 expense. Now, we might not need it in our scenario, but these are all examples of expenses, okay? But then when we get to federal income tax expense, this one is a little bit different, okay? Because this one here and our unrelated to normal operations, these are not related, okay? This is done after we've completed operations, after we have finished. So we're just going to go move over here and we're going to click these two, okay? These are not part of operations. This here is interest income, money that we generate through providing loans or interest gain through investments. So it's not really part of our operations of selling merchandise, reducing merchandise. And federal income tax, same thing. It's money that we have to pay that we're going to calculate at the end of the year. So we can go ahead and move forward now. Okay. Now, the calculations required to determine the gross profit are as follows. Determine the order in which these calculations are made. So, gross profit is right here. So we have, first we know we're gonna, we have our net sales, gross profit. Well, gross profit is what we're calculating, so that should probably be number 4, cost of merchandise, net purchases, and net sales. And so we come over here. Well, net sales is first. Okay. Let's move this over. So we have our net sales. We're trying to find gross profit. So we have net sales. And we know we're going to need our net. We're going to need our net purchase. And then here's our cost of merchandise. Our net purchase right here, this is a total cost of merchandise available. And so find the, okay. So net sales, net purchases, and cost of merchandise sold. That should be the order. And they're referring to cost of merchandise sold under this column here, not referring to this. Because this is, here is the title. And so here we see net purchases is first as the total, and then cost of merchandise here. Okay. So use this section to indicate the formula. So here we need to figure out the cost of merchandise sold formula, so cost of merchandise sold. And so we come back to the PowerPoint. We know we gotta have our beginning inventory. Okay, so beginning inventory. Now the cost of merchandise sold is beginning inventory, net purchase. You get your total cost of merchandise less the inventory that has been sold. And that's going to give you your cost of merchandise. And you subtract that from your net sales, and that's going to give you your gross profit. And so that's what we're looking for. So the key thing, we come over here, let's use this column here. beginning inventory, because we know we're going to need our cost of merchandise sold. So beginning inventory plus our net purchases, okay, minus, oh, well, no, we have our total cost of merchandise available, not minus yet, total merchandise available, okay, because that is now what our beginning plus our net purchases are, minus our cost of merchandise sold, as we see right here, cost of merchandise sold. Oh no, that's merchandise inventory. Sorry, merchandise inventory. That's actually what we want. Merchandise inventory. Ending merchandise inventory. There we go. That is the correct one. Ending merchandise inventory. I am not missing. Okay, yes. Okay, so we have our beginning, what we purchased. That gives us the total that we have, minus what we're ending, because that's going to tell us how much that we should have sold throughout the year, since this minus this would give us the amount that is not present, and that's the amount that should have sold, and that should give us a total cost. So we go to gross profit formula. Okay, here's our gross profit. And it is our sales minus cost of goods sold. Okay, right here, gross profit, net sales minus cost of goods sold. Okay, net sales, you track those, and that's going to give you your gross profit. Net purchase formula. So you come over here, find a net purchase, right here. So we know we gotta have our purchases minus our less discount and our returns. We add those together, subtract that from our purchases, and that's gonna give us our net purchase. And so here we have our purchases minus, we know we're gonna have a discount purchase, and we're gonna have an allowance for returns of some sort. And that's gonna give us a net purchase. And net sales formula, same thing, we'll use this. We have our sales less our sales discount, sales returns. Those two added up is this value here, the mouse is pointing, and subtract that from the 600,000. That's going to give us this 626,000 here. So we'll come over here. So we have our sales less our sales discount. If I can find one, there it is. And less our sales allowance. There it is. And great. Next step. So here we're going to be entering in the data. Okay, so key thing right here, yesterday, that's what happens when you don't read the instructions. Over glance, here is your beginning inventory. Okay, we have to know what we started with, so that's going to be right here. Okay, so right now we're going to have to put in the information. So this here is for Eastern imports. Okay. income statement. That's spelled correctly. For year ended. Oh, ended. That's what I put on. Let's put ending. Ended. Ended. And where's the month? December. Should have known that. Don't even need to ask that, but there we go. Okay, so now we're gonna put up here everything that we need to. So here we know this is gonna be our operations. Operating, take operating revenue. Operating revenue. Okay, operating revenue, sales less, sales discount less, returns and allowance. So we know this is going to be less. And so then we need to come up here, we'll pin this, and we need to find our cells. And so we gotta scroll through here, income summary, bam. We know it's gonna be with the income summary. That's gonna starting point. So cells was 432.64. And I made a typo, hit 2.3. So human error right off the bat. Okay, sales discount is 1186.70 and 56.48. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong line. 2837.93 is our returns allowance. So we need to add these. And I get 4,024.63. And now we're going to subtract that from our cells. That will give us our net cells. Of 428.40. Okay. So we have our sales discounts, our sales returns. We did that. We put our sales, we put our less, we added, we subtracted. We got net sales. So now we're going to be moving on to cost of merchandise sold. So we need to put the title over here. Cost of merchandise sold. Okay. This is our beginning inventory. So we're going to put January 1st, 20 dash. And so we know this is right in this paragraph. So right over here, 128,000 and 128,110 and 24 cents as our beginning inventory. So now we have to go through and so we have our purchases here. We purchased $193,492.91. We have to take away our purchase discounts. and our allowance. And then make sure we add these. That's going to give us our net purchases. We subtract that from the 193,492.91. And I got 191,752.56. Okay. So now we have to add our purchases to our inventory. And that's what you see over here. We'll come over here real quick. You see we start off with 108,000. If you notice, we purchased 252,000. It is now 360,000. So that is our total merchandise available for sale. And so that's what we're going to put in. Total merchandise. Total, I think it was the one to. If we get it correct. Total cost of sorry. Total cost of merchandise. And I want it like this. I don't know why. Available. Should I get the rest of it for sale? Okay. For sale. Like a paragraph we're going to write out here. Okay. And we're going to add the 128,000. And that's going to give us 319,862.80. So less our merchandise. Now our merchandise is what we sold. That's way up here. If you remember when we did that checklist, merchandise inventory. $122,000. Oh, yeah, okay. So make sure to put the ending date. Okay. So now this is going to give us swap between two. Our cost of merchandise sold. And that's what we'll end up with, that cost of merchandise sold when we subtract this from our 300,000. So 100, I should put that in first. Okay. Costs of merchandise sold. From here, this will give us our gross profit. And to get gross profit, what do? We subtract 428. We just take the difference between this value and this value, and that gives us $231.37 $231,037.01 if I did all my calculations correct. And we can see that if we pull up this PowerPoint, gross profit is the last one. And that's the difference between the two. The 626,000 minus the 258,000 gives us gross profit on this example of the 368. Same thing, 428,000 minus 197,000 should give us 231,000, as long as I did all my math correctly and didn't make any human errors, putting anything in. And I did make an error somewhere. I must have hit something wrong. I probably copied that wrong. Yep, I hit a 6 instead of a 9. That's the human error typo, and that's going to make the difference between them, each by 3, most likely. So, well, by 4, that's going to change it by $40. That's what you're seeing right there, $40 difference. And so if you notice, that's the $40 difference between or $30, 3. See, 6 and 9 is 3. 3, that's 10. So that increases by 30. Okay, so on this here, complete the remainder of the Eastern Imports income statement. The valid values for the text entry cells in the first column can be found in the column's first section listed tab at questions assets. So here we're going to finish. So here we're going to put in our operating expenses. And what do we see? Operating expenses as the title. So let's go ahead and put that in, operating expenses. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to copy all this wonderful information into, so let's go down to where we start seeing income summary and we start seeing expenses. And there's our expenses right after our purchases. And we got advertising expense. So let's just start putting them in. And try not to make any typos. And that screws up our math and gives us incorrect data. And we have to go and search what we made that mistake on with. So just work your way down, putting all this data in, making sure you got the correct data, and you can zoom right through it, right? So it looks like we're getting through this pretty quickly. The fun part's gonna be when we have to add all this up. This is where Excel or Google Sheets come in very handy. I would almost just want to just put all this information, copy it right in if it would let me. And so, in our utility, that'd make it so much easier. Okay. And I know you probably can guess what it is, but it's total operating expense is our title for that line. Pretty straightforward, right? Total operating expenses. And here comes the fun part of going back and adding all this data up. So get your calculators out, add them up pretty quickly. Make sure that you try to not make any human errors as you're speeding right through this. I know we're all perfect, not perfect, and we all make errors. Remember, human error is one of the biggest mistakes in accounting, and that's why we always typically would go double check, even triple check. But for the time's sake of the video, we won't, and we'll just move forward with the errors. But we would want to go and double check, make sure we put everything in correctly, and then we'd want to run our numbers through twice, or as I would keep on saying, just put it into, type them all up into Excel and add them all up, and then you only have to do it once and just verify that you put in everything correctly. So yeah, $172,951.50, which should be roughly correct because there's 110,000 roughly here, and there's only about another 10, and then everything running by average of close to 2 to 5. So that's pretty close because there's your 110. Oh, there's 20, 30, 40, and those probably add up to the other 30 or so. So that's pretty close. So what we are doing next, we have our total operating. Now we have to figure out our income from operations. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this and subtract it from that, our gross profit. And so income operations. Type that in correctly. Yes. Okay. And so we're just going to subtract. So our $237 and $7.01, and I ended up with $58,055.60. Okay. This here is going to be our other revenue. Okay. So other revenue is going to be that title. And so you just go ahead and put it in. Okay, so we have our income, interest income. So yeah, scroll up here and go find that. Right there, $416.08. $416.08. Okay. This is gonna be less. And we can go ahead and this now is gonna be our net income before, mouse on the right slide. There we go. The net income before federal income tax. Okay. So net income before federal income tax. We haven't paid our taxes yet. Okay. So what we're doing is we're going to just add these together. Now in my case, I'm subtracting because mine was a negative number because I didn't want to rewrite it. Okay, so now we got to find out what is our income tax. And so our income tax here is $9,617.90. So $9,617.90. We'll double check. Okay. And now this is going to be our net income after federal income tax. Now what we do is we're subtracting, right? So I got $48,853.08. Now let's hope that all my math's correct, and hope I didn't make any type human errors, input errors, especially hitting nine instead of the six. And what did I? Oh, I must have hit something. I probably hit point one. Yeah, I did. I hit a point one instead of a 0.1 when entering that in. And that's what gave me my error. So that's gonna mess those up again. Um, as stated, trying to hurry up and get through this. Not make it too long a video, but double and triple check. Make sure you always do that. That's the mistakes I've made, is just not and triple checking before I grade it. I'll make sure you do that. So we know right here we're going to now be doing our percentage, and that's right here, our percentage. Okay. And so we know this is going to be 100%, right? Net sales is 100. Now we're going to take is our cost of merchandise and divide it by our net sales. And that'll give you a percentage. And that percentage I get is 0.46. So you times that by 100, and I get 46.4. Now you can you can subtract that from 100, and you should get 53.6 as your other, or you can just go ahead and do the math to make sure that is correct. And I get I get pretty much the same thing. And so 53.6. It's easier if you just go ahead and subtract it. Okay. So now what you're trying to figure out is total operating expense and its percentage. Okay. And so you're going to take this value and divide it by this value. So are you taking this value, the 172, and divide it by the net sales? And then I got 40.4. And then you're going to do the same thing. So you're going to take that and divide it, and you're just going to keep on going down, find each one by the cell. Okay, so here we have 58,055.51 divided by 428, 408.01. So I got 13.5. Then what I would do is put the point. You can put the 0.5, even though it should round. On the other ones, when I was finishing the, it wanted the 5 instead of 6 because the 5 is like neutral. I assume is what the system is saying, and so that is why it wanted the 5. We'll go ahead and see. Maybe this time we want it round. And I know that sometimes what's the difficult thing with Cengage. Here, the lowest thing you can give is a 0.1%. You can try to put 0, 1. It's not going to, and you got a negative number. So here, the lowest value you can give is a 0.1%. It just basically means it's 0.1% or even less. related to it. So that one there would just be 0.1%. And so this one I got 13.6%, and we just keep on going down the line. And double and triple check. I'm not doing so to save time with the video, but just move it out. Just do so you can make sure you are doing it. You're doing your math correctly. That tends to be the biggest mistake, even when checking you guys' work and tests and things. That tends to be the biggest mistake is just making small mathematical errors, or doing as I did, inputting something very simple wrong. And so that's, we're going all the way down. And what? Okay, did I read something wrong? 701. I might have inputted something wrong. Yes, I did. That is why I inputted incorrectly something, and that's what threw everything off. So it should be the one. I got 46.07, so that would be the 1, and so then that would be the 9. So I did input something incorrectly here. Probably did the same thing. Yep, it wanted us to round up. So this time it wanted to round up. So go through, double check those. The method was correct. I inputted something wrong. Trying to save time, but you get the general idea of what's supposed to be going on here. Go ahead. If you have any questions, send me an email. Hopefully this helps. The video helps out. And biggest thing, I know it's a lot of inputting numbers, and that's where I've made mistakes, and you'll make lots of mistakes. Take your time, do it correctly. Have a great day. Bye.